Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Northwest Access TV. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Happy to have the newest member of the St. Albans Selectboard, St. Albans Town Selectboard in hand, Amanda Headley. Amanda, nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Anyway, so congratulations on your recent appointment to the Select Board with Brendan D. So I guess Brendan ended up, moving to Swanton?
Just temporarily.
No,
yeah.
temporarily.
Yeah, he'll be back. He's building a house.
Oh, is that right? So he'll be back. Yeah, Brendan, of course, a bunch of years on the town select board. He was probably about one of the youngest select board chairs in the state, I can only assume.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I'm looking forward to following in his footsteps. I think he did a
Yeah.
good job.
Anyway, so a recent appointment, you had another person who's very well known, Bob Cross, the former longtime St. Albans Town Fire Chief, also sought the appointment, and the select board went with you. But it sounds like you'll be seeing Bob down the road. I guess you both filed for a 2-year term at the March town meeting.
Yes, so people will be turning out on town meeting day on March
Interesting.
4th, and we'll see, may the best man win.
Interesting, or best woman in this case, yeah, for sure. And Jeff Sanders, the incumbent who's running, I guess, has decided to run for re-election, and I guess has filed for a 3-year term. And for the record, I should note, we're taping this show on Thursday, January 23rd, so still a few days for people to file. Filing deadline Monday, Jan 27, I guess 5 p.m.
Yes.
So we'll see if any other candidates surface. Anyway, give us a little background on yourself, Amin. Tell us about yourself.
So I grew up near Seattle.
Really? Wow,
Yep.
beautiful part of the country, Pac Northwest.
Yes, and my parents owned a ski school when I was younger. My dad
Really?
was a general contractor, and my mom worked for the telephone company.
Huh.
But on the weekends, we would be mountain warriors skiing, and so I grew up in, a community of skiers. And so whoever was around would help me with tying my boots or putting on my hat, because my parents were busy running a ski school.
Wow. And this is outside Seattle, towards like Mount Rainier, or where exactly were we talking?
It was called Snoqualmie Pass back then.
I
and
know the name of the pass very well.
Now it's called the Summit at Snoqualmie.
Oh, really? Boy, and tons of snow. We're talking tons of snow there, right?
Yes, yeah. They get more rain now, but
Yeah.
with climate change, but they do still get a lot of snow.
Interesting. So ended up moving to Vermont eventually, or?
Yeah, we moved here 5 years ago with my husband and my 2 kids.
Yeah.
And we really loved Vermonters and that small town life that you have here, and we just wanted to be a part of it. We aren't here to change Vermont. We really appreciate what's already here, and we just want to keep making it great.
And how did you happen to move to Vermont of all places?
Well, I moved to New Jersey because I met my husband at the LAX airport, actually.
Oh, really?
And he's
Interesting.
from New Jersey. So when we lived in New Jersey, we would come up and visit Vermont, and that's when we fell in love with Vermont. And it was like, how do we get there? How do we save enough money to move here and buy a home?
Interesting. And where did St. Albans Town? How'd you happen to move to St. Albans Town?
Well, we flew out and we looked at 8 houses all the way from St. Albans all the way to Waterbury.
Really?
And we just fell in love with the house here in St. Albans Bay.
Huh.
We really liked that you could walk to the post office
Yeah.
and just had that real community feel to it. And we really liked the city as well because it had the restaurants and grocery stores in the town. So you could really get everything you needed here.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always loved the St. Albans Bay area. I walk in the Bay Park. I think you guys have done a great job with the Bay Park. Even the dock, the old dock, is it's a nice part of the area. Not to mention the state parks, Kilcare, Burden Island. I mean, town's got a lot of things going for it.
And the St. Albans Town Education Center takes field trips to Burton Island. So I was able to go with my son's class this
Oh, that's
last
cool.
year and visit for the first time. And it's a really beautiful place.
Yeah, it's a great place. Anyway, and some involvement before you got appointed to the select board, you had some involvement with the town. Tell us about what you've been up to with the town.
Yeah, so for over a year, I worked with the Planning Commission. So I was on the Planning Commission, and they're a wonderful group of people, and we were working on the bylaws, so zoning bylaws, to make sure that they were in line with what we saw for the future of the town. And as you know, like some of the state statutes now are adding a story, for like number of stories you can have on a building. So what do we want the town to look like? How many stories do we want it to have? And planning for that, knowing that the state is going to add on a story to whatever our zoning laws are.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Are you still on the planning commission, or did you step down because you're a select board member? You still doing planning commission?
So I did step down.
Yeah, did you have to step down? I don't even know that.
Well, so if I was still on the planning commission, because they're planning and then the select board votes to approve what they're planning,
Yeah.
I would not be able to vote.
Seen as, I guess, a
If-
conflict of interest of sorts.
Exactly. So it didn't make sense for me to stay on, as well as it is a time commitment for me because I have, the family to run. I'm a real estate agent. So, yeah, there's other things. I just have to keep my time allocated correctly.
Interesting. Isn't the former, and I've never met her, the former Fairfax Town Administrator, is it Sarah Hadd? Is she a Town Planning Commission member too?
Yes, so Sarah
Interesting.
lives in the town,
Yeah.
even though she's the Fairfax town manager, and she is a wealth of information.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that she's on the planning commission because she has so much experience and knowledge about planning and zoning.
Yeah. Interesting. And speaking of St. Albans Bay, hasn't there been an effort to kind of come up with a kind of a game plan for the St. Albans Bay area? I'm not using a very good term, but
Yes, the St. Albans Bay Village Master Plan.
like a village master plan.
And I was also on that committee as well
Huh.
with a couple of other Bay community residents.
Yeah, is that still being worked on, or what state is that at right now?
It was finalized,
Okay.
so we do have a plan,
Yeah.
but nothing's been decided on how to use that plan yet.
Huh.
But it's nice that, we had grants to help pay for it and support from the Northwest Regional Planning. And so, where would sidewalks go if we did do sidewalks? And,
Yeah.
what are the goals of the community in the Bay?
Yeah.
And a lot of people were in support of recreation, that they go down there for the park and boating and things like that.
Interesting. And I guess the town's looking to take over some of the highway from the state. That's come up on other plans.
Yes, so
And of course, you have that intersection down at the heart of the bay that's always been a bit tough to deal with.
yes, and as I drive down there all the time,
Yeah.
most of us that live down there, we stop even though it's
Yeah.
not a stop, and
Yeah.
so eventually we would like it to be a stop sign,
Yeah.
a three-way stop there. And yes, that would be an adoption process from the state because the state doesn't want to change it because right now it's a highway and it curves, and so to change it, the town would have to adopt it. But they are talking about just letting us adopt that section instead of having to take over the whole thing.
Interesting. So what are your thoughts on the future of St. Albans Bay? Anything are you happy with the finalization of the village master plan? Does it sound like you're going to be trying to do some good stuff down there?
Yeah, right now, it is residential, right?
Yeah.
So we do want to keep, the residential aspect of things and keep the residents happy because we're not going to make it this huge commercial hub.
Yeah.
But also, how can we support the people that want to come down there and swim in the bay and enjoy the music of the farmers market?
I think you guys do a great job with the farmers market, and whoever had the idea of adding music to it, what a great idea. Nice way to spend a Thursday late afternoon.
Exactly. And I know the town is working on getting electronic gates for the Bay Park so that, because right now they're closed a lot, and so having them be automatic so they can then be opened and people can park there and use the park.
Oh yeah,
So,
interesting.
Yeah, the stone house is an interesting project, so
Yeah.
that's a whole thing in itself.
Yeah, we talk about that when I talk to the Select Board Chair, Jonathan Giroux, and Sean Atkins, the town manager. That subject always comes up. Sounds like that's kind of a tough issue with a historic structure and the slate roof in particular. I mean, it sounds like you have to keep a slate roof. It just sounds like a kind of a tough project to deal with if you're trying to make improvements to it.
Yeah, so in real estate, I'm familiar with this
Okay, you
this
know the
historical slate roof. There's a bunch of buildings in Burlington that are the same, and so if
yeah.
it has a slate roof, you have to keep the slate roof. And so they've had estimates on, keeping it up, and they say at this point it needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
And it would be over $400,000 to replace the slate,
Just the roof.
just the roof. And I don't think
insane.
that's a great use of community taxpayer money.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be another avenue of how can we, improve it, fix it, rebuild it if, need be, instead of, because you could build a building for $400,000.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that sounds insane. That's
yeah.
interesting. Well, good luck with the stone house. It's a neat, goes back to what, Civilian Conservation Corps days, 1930s.
Yes, it's very old, and I got to visit the St. Albans Museum with Alvo Gel and see the history of the town, which was really interesting.
Yeah, great museum. Yeah, St. Albans, for not the biggest place in the world, has a pretty nice museum. And of course, even that's something Burlington doesn't have these days, a downtown movie theater, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, I'm very happy that the city was able to save that and preserve that we do have a movie theater.
Yeah. So you've been on the select board for how long now, Amanda? When were you appointed?
It was about 15 months ago, or for the select board?
Yeah, how long have you just been on the select board?
Since December 17th.
December 17, so a little over, so not just about a month or so.
Yeah, so we've had a
Any-
few meetings.
Sounds like you knew the town pretty well. Any big surprises as being a select board member? Easier, tougher job than you thought, or any early thoughts on being a select board member? Did you
It's
know
not-
what you were getting into?
Yeah, I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And the Planning Commission really did prepare me for that because, we still have to vote on things in the Planning Commission and pass things and enact things. And so moving up to the Select Board, it wasn't that much of a change.
Yeah,
We are working on different things, of course. We're not planning.
Yeah.
We're doing budgets and approving warrants, payroll warrants, and things like that.
yeah.
And right now, we're working on the budget to finalize it for next year. So that's a really important part of what we do, and how can we keep costs low as possible,
Yeah.
and use the taxpayer money correctly.
So again, we're taping this show on Thursday, January 23rd. Have you got a Monday? You've obviously got to finalize this budget in the next few days. That will happen. Is there a Monday meeting coming up?
Our next meeting is on the 30th at 8 a.m.,
30th.
and that's when we're going to vote on finalizing it
Oh, right.
and approve the ballot articles that will be on the
Okay,
ballot.
so you can do that. You don't have to do that by the 27th. You have a few more days you can do that.
Yes,
Okay, so you're getting pretty close to finalizing that.
yes.
Any big changes? St. Albans Town voted, I realize you weren't around for the last town meeting as a select board member. Any big changes in what voters will see? I think the town last year used to, in the past, had many more articles on the town meeting day warrant. I guess they pretty much just went down to the budget last year and maybe one or two others. Is that going to be a similar situation this year?
Yeah, I
Mainly
think it's
just
about four
the budget,
articles.
4 articles.
Yeah, and the school board members are up for election, some
Yeah.
of them, and voting on the school budget as well.
Yeah, the school budget had, before last year, the last town meeting had pretty much been sailing through. It was a much closer vote on the Maple Run school budget this last time. And of course, school budgets, as you well know, getting a ton of attention. It would be interesting to see what comes out of Montpelier with just education, financing, and figuring out what to do about it. Just sounds like, again, a very complicated, tough issue. And if you can explain to us the education financing system in the state, how that works, I'd be hugely impressed, because I don't think a lot of people can have a good handle on that. It just seems like it's insanely complicated.
Yeah, so Bill
Anyway.
Kimball did come and talk to the
The
select
superintendent,
board.
yeah, I interviewed Bill before the last town meeting day vote.
Yeah, and what happens is there's everybody pays taxes into a huge fund, right?
yeah.
And then that just gets distributed to the schools. I think it's based on how many teachers and students, et cetera, so that even the small towns are still getting the money they need. And that's getting allocated from the bigger towns that are paying into it. And so from what I understand, even if we cut our budget in in Maple Run,
Yeah.
there's still going to be a cost to us. It's not going to make what we pay less. So it is complicated. And I really appreciated what Phil Scott was saying 2 weeks ago when he was making his address on the floor,
Yeah,
that we do need reform. We want to keep our education great because our students are the future, but also, is this sustainable with the cost to taxpayers? And so he was talking about regional schools. Now, my concern with that is I don't want kids on the bus for 2 hours each way.
sure.
so that it needs to be studied and it needs to be done responsibly.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck to the legislature. An incredible issue. What's striking you as the biggest issues in St. Albans Town?
Well, crime was on the rise in 2024.
Yeah,
And I did sit down with the police chief on Tuesday
yeah,
and just to talk to them, how many officers are we up to? We're up to 16.
16.
I'm very pleased that we are partnering with the city police department.
Of course, that was a huge agreement, and Jack Brigham, your colleague, was one of the key players, I think, in finally forging an agreement between the city and town on police coverage and the incredibly sticky issue of wastewater. So you're happy that that got done? You think that's working out pretty well
I do.
at this point?
I do. I think they're doing a great job. They're really focused on patrolling the whole area. They're not just sticking to the city, right? They're doing the town as well, and they're
And of
giving.
course, the town's paying half of this. You folks are paying half of the police budget here.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, going up. Just read the Messenger story in an interview, St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, but just, trying to keep competitive salaries for the police officers so they don't lose them, of course. So, yeah, that'll certainly be one of the bigger items for the St. Albans city budget, too.
Yeah, so the police department does 3 officers per shift, and they do 3 days in a row, 12-hour shifts.
Oh, yeah.
So then they get every other weekend off, which I think is great because, a lot of them do have families, so they should be able to see those families.
Have you got a sense, do you know some police officers, is morale decent with St. Albans PD? Again, tough job these days, crime's on the rise. Anyway, but
So I asked them about turnover.
Yeah.
Do you have high turnover? And they said, well, we do have turnover, but it's not generally because of morale. It's because of, they either get a different job
Yeah.
or the hours aren't conducive to what they need.
Or get a better paying job, perhaps. But I guess you're looking to increase officers' pay by what, 8%, I think, is what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
Boy, now crime's become a huge issue.
Yeah, and it's mostly because of drugs, and unfortunately, you can just keep fighting it. It's never ever going to go away.
Yeah,
So they're doing a good job being the boots on the ground.
yeah. Any news on the old the former St. Albans Town Hall, which I guess town's been trying to sell or do something with? Any news on that or hopes for that? What would you? And you're a real estate person. Of course, I guess just sewer down there. Wastewater's a big issue in terms of a housing initiative. But what's your hope for the town hall? Anything in particular? The old one?
I think housing would be great, but
Yeah.
as you said, it is limited by the wastewater.
Yeah.
So I think they're looking at a commercial kind of space and maybe an apartment or 2
Yeah.
or something like that where it would still support the septic. I know we're relisting it with another agent,
Oh yeah.
so that'll be announced. I'm not going to say who, but
Yeah.
she's a great agent. So she's going to do a good job.
Interesting. And what about the former Public Works garage, right, almost right next to you with the new town hall? Any thoughts or hopes for, what might become of that?
So the Planning Commission has come up with
Yeah.
a few alternatives for what it could be. And there's still definitely different opinions on the select board even of
Yeah.
what they want to see done with it.
Really?
So, some people want a park, some people want a boat launch. There's some
Yeah.
particular difficulties with that particular spot. It is a 12-foot drop to the water.
Yeah.
So the ramp would be very long to back up.
Is that right, Tron? I've been down there before. I didn't remember it being that much. Is that right? 12 feet?
It's 12 feet.
Wow.
So the orange building is not safe, so that one will be taken down.
Yeah.
But the salt shed is in good shape.
Huh.
So if we leave it there, because shoreland protection rules and things, if you take it down, you can't put it back. But if it's there, it's grandfathered in. So if they do keep it there and do an alternative plan to a boat launch, it could be used as a community space. You could use the footprint of it, enclose it, keep it open. There's a lot of things you could do with it.
I've never heard too much support for the town trying to sell it. Does anybody, any of the select board members, is there some support for just selling it to someone and they can do what they want with it, or does it
I
sound
haven't
like-
heard that.
And so it sounds like the town is looking to keep this property and, yeah, just what to do with it.
Yeah.
Boy, another boat launch, as you probably know, just going out to Kilcare, out that way to the St. Albans Bay boat launch out towards Kilcare, as I'm sure you know, having been around here for a while. Boy, on a busy summer day, you get just the trailers backing up along there. It's just not a good situation.
No, I don't own a boat.
Yeah.
So, and not everybody in St. Albans Town owns a
I'm
boat.
sure you're right about that.
So when you do real estate, you look at highest and best use of a property.
Yeah.
So is a boat launch going to benefit the most people? So I really hope that that's something that the community will come together and voice, whether that will be a benefit
Yeah.
or whether something else will benefit the most people in the town.
Yeah.
But
And
the other boat launches that do exist,
Yeah.
they have their own challenges as well. The Fish and Wildlife one is right on the road.
Yeah.
The Kilcare one I also heard is steep. The Georgia Beach one is also steep. So all of the ones around there, they definitely have that 12-foot drop that we're looking at, even at the DPW site.
Yep, sounds like it. Speaking of housing, any housing initiatives in St. Albans Town? The city certainly has been doing some stuff. In fact, 175 Lake Street, the big, is that open yet? I was expecting, seems like I heard that was going to open in December, and I go by it pretty much every other day. Is that open yet, or not
I
quite, or you're
haven't
not sure?
heard. I know
No, they must
people
be
were
close.
calling
They
me
gotta
and
be
asking
close.
about it. They
No,
were like,
really.
how do I get in? And I heard there was a wait list already. So, but I think it's a great
I guess they're
addition
close, yeah.
because affordable housing is a real challenge.
In fact, that term even has all kind of throws me off of the affordable part of that term, affordable housing. But boy, another huge issue in Vermont and probably maybe every place else. Keep hearing about people, wanting to come into Vermont to work but can't find a place to live.
Yes,
So how
and
is the housing again? And this is your terrain. Is that just very, very tough, very tight housing market around the St. Albans area? I mean, just not a lot of inventory for people looking for houses, or?
there is some inventory available
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
But what's happened is there's deferred maintenance that happens. And so when you have deferred maintenance on a building,
yeah,
over the years, that building, it doesn't really come back, or it costs thousands of dollars to fix it up again.
yeah,
So now it's being sold at a lesser price, but the buyers are saying, well, I don't want to fix all the things that are wrong with it. And so sometimes these properties then sit. So, and the Lake Champlain Housing Division, they always say that they have grants to help fix houses, like
Yeah.
that homeowners can get these grants. And I've checked several times, and there's never been money available. They say check back later.
really.
So I wish there was more help for homeowners that want to fix their house, but may not have the funds to do it,
Yeah,
for, their siding falls off, or, their window breaks, or, the roof is in bad shape. If you could wash the roof, you could
Yeah.
save it and prolong its life, things like that.
but no major, no significant housing initiatives in terms of projects in St. Albans Town at this point?
Well, the planning department is definitely working on making zoning attractive
Yeah,
to builders, as attractive as we can. And Megan was also talking about putting together like a handbook that somebody could find online, a builder, to say these are our current zoning, and how simple it would be to choose St. Albans Town to build in.
yeah,
Because making it attractive and educating the developers on what the current zoning is,
yeah.
because the hurdles to building are really what makes developers turn away, especially in Vermont, just with Act 250 and things like that. And there's been some Act 250 reform.
Some reform, seems like a lot of people think not enough, but some.
Well, and I completely understand where the residents are coming from, saying that we don't want our landscape to turn into a sea of houses.
Sure.
And I completely agree,
Yeah.
because where I came from, it was a sea of houses.
Really, yeah,
And then with that came a lot of congestion because the infrastructure couldn't support all the houses that were built.
yeah,
That's why like sustainable growth, infill. So there's places where people have a double lot or something, even in the Bay, and I've talked to them, hey, why aren't you selling your other lot? I see you're not using it.
Yeah,
Well, I can't because I need a backup spot for my septic in case I need to build a new one, like if there's ever failed. So, if wastewater gets down to the Bay, which is something that Sean's been working on and plan, it's not a one-step deal. It's going to take several years, I think. But if we keep working on it and keep it in mind, I think it will help. It will also help the lake.
yeah. And it sounds like this would be extending water sewer lines from the city as opposed to building a new wastewater facility in the Bay Area. The price tag, the price tag's going to be big anyway, but it sounds like it would be extending sewer lines from the city if that were to happen. And I know you've been giving that some thought.
Yeah, extending from the city and then making sure, because as you add more houses to it, well, is the facility big enough? Does it have to be enlarged? So just keeping all of that in mind, because it's not just about laying pipes.
Yeah. And a new St. Albans Town Fire Department headquarters, sounds like that's kind of something you folks have been looking at also. And you think, is it pretty clear you need a new headquarters, a bigger fire department building at some point anyway? Or is
Yes.
that,
It's not even just bigger, it's old.
Yeah.
So I visited Matt, the new fire chief.
yeah,
He's doing a great job. He's already cut costs by not responding to,
Matt Mulheron, also
Mulheron.
the fire chief for St. Albans City too, I believe, right?
Exactly, yeah. So he's full-time at the city, and then he's contracted with the town.
Yeah,
And I talked to him about facilities. He said one of the biggest things is they can't fill up the water trucks at the town, so they have to take them to the city because the water, it rusts the trucks. Because
Really?
it's not, so if it spills on the outside of the trucks, it bubbles up the paint on the fire trucks. And so, getting a facility where you can fill up your trucks is pretty important, and not having it be falling down. So is it going to be bigger? Maybe. Right now, it's housing everything they need,
yeah,
but it'll just depend on what the future looks like. I know we just signed a contract with AmCare, so we won't need ambulance for a while.
oh yeah. And again, the site would be, I think you have enough room at the current site, I mean, out back or whatever, but it looks like it would be the same site basically for the new building.
Yes, he said it would be like to the right of the current building because, I said, well, you can't build something and take away the
Right.
building. Where are you going to put the fire trucks? So he said it would be to the right of where it is now, and they lease that land for like $1 a year.
Yeah, so it sounds like that will happen at some point, or you'll definitely keep moving on that project.
Yeah.
Interesting. Down to about just a little minute and a half or so. Anything you want to quickly talk about that I haven't asked you about that you haven't mentioned?
I really like the direction that St. Albans has gone. Even since before I moved here, they were already moving in a positive direction. And I want to be a part of that, to be able to leave a legacy for our kids and leave the town in the best shape that it can be. So any small part that I can play, I'd be honored.
Issues, again, down to about 1 minute or so. You're obviously talking to plenty of townspeople, especially seeking a full term, a 2-year term on the select board in March. What issue? Are there a lot of different issues that come up, or any particular issues that most people ask you about? Biggest concerns?
People ask me about the crime for sure.
Yeah.
And I did talk to the police, and they said, it's really helpful with everybody having their Ring cameras and being able to say, I have footage of this person, and being able to submit that to the police, because every video that they get, every instance, they can hold those people longer because it's more charges.
Yeah.
So if you do have footage, please send it to the police because it does help out.
Interesting, but it sounds like you feel pretty positive about the town, but it feels like you think you got a pretty good place in the world here, huh?
Yes, I do.
Anyway, Amanda, thanks a lot for the time.
Thank you.
Again, Amanda Headley, the newest member of the St. Albans Town Selectboard, and again, at least one contest in St. Albans Town coming up on Town Meeting Day, March 4th, between Amanda and Bob Cross, a former longtime longtime fire chief, and we'll see if anybody else jumps into the fray too. Thanks for your time. Thanks to my producer, Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. See you next time.